right, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear friends, this is still me, Rajiv, and Piyush on Rebel Radio India. What a week it has been. I mean, it's been so interesting in the MMA and the grappling world. In MMA, obviously, we had the UFC 284 card, and in the grappling arena, Gordon Ryan is back to being Gordon Ryan. He is bashing Nicky Rod, and now even Craig Jones has stepped into the melee. So what a week it has been, right?
Amazing week. The UFC just blew the roof in Australia. The arena just exploded with the Volkanovski performance.
Volkanovski won.
And I suppose you lost some money, right? $500.
I did, unfortunately to my students.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
We'll definitely talk about that decision once again because a lot of people had it for Volk initially, and then a lot of experts came back and then talked. Without the, live watching experience, it turned out to be like Islam was the one who took the rounds. And fans are very quick to judge like an MMA fight on the basis of how it's ending rather than round versus round per round, like how it's a sport and how it is meant to be judged by the judges. So I think the judges got it pretty accurate this time, apart from that one judge who had it 49-46. And yeah, we'll talk about the fight, but yeah, how has the day been going for you?
The day has been pretty chill because at Rebel, Thursdays are chill day. I mean, we don't have comm classes on Thursdays. We dedicate this day to drilling more at our own pace, trying to plug our games in both MMA and BJJ. We do some studying, then we drill. Some people just strike. So it's a casual kind of atmosphere here. Apart from that, I had a great day. I came in the morning, did my vocal practice, and I'm also learning some piano. So it's been interesting so far. I remember you going for your SNC program to, what is that?
Today was just the conditioning day, but yeah, it was pretty brutal. It was like 36 minutes of non-stop conditioning with 1 minute breaks in between. And yeah, the assault bike, what's the other name for that? Airdyne.
Airdyne.
Airdyne and the rowing machine. So I'm finally taking my conditioning a little bit more seriously. For the longest time, I was in that Lachlan Giles camp and Marcelo Garcia camp that you get all your conditioning by doing more rolling. But as you might have also discovered that after a point when your technique just improves or becomes a little bit sharper, then your conditioning rate or your work rate kind of decreases in the training room. So it's always good to fall back on a good conditioning program. And since we are also preparing for the ADCC trials now, which is going to happen in September. November. Okay. I was just anticipating it earlier. It's good, not bad. So November of this year, which I hope will go as a team. We'll go.
Yes, we will go there as a team.
Collect some scalps.
Also before that, if you've forgotten, Strangle is going to be sending one winner to the ADCC trials. All expenses paid. So please, guys, if you've not signed up yet, please sign up. And let's go there as a team and try to put India on the world grappling map.
Yes.
So it's been like you said, it's been a light day, but let's discuss a few things that was so interesting starting Saturday and Sunday. Obviously, Anshul Jubli is back, and he's back with a lot of fanfare, which we love. And India is slowly waking up to worshipping the right kind of heroes.
The Anshul fanfare post that fight has been tremendous. So I saw Volkanovski post-fight post, and I was telling about this to you, that he received, and again, we are not measuring it just by the social media likes, but it is a good measure, you have to be honest. And he had like 150,000 odd, and he's a pound-for-pound number one champion of the world. And he had 150,000 likes on his social media posts, the victory. And then Anshul comes in that open Jeep picture, that post, and he gets like more than 1 lakh likes. Yeah. Which is unprecedented. I don't want to imagine how his inbox is looking right now.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
So I think it's the Indian great fans. Direction where Indian MMA is going. This kind of accolades or this kind of recognition for our awesome fighters mean that we are in the right direction. And in the next 4 to 5 years, we will definitely see an Indian champion in any of the bigger promotions in the world. So again, congratulations, Anshul, and also congratulations to all the people who were kind enough to go and receive Anshul like a pure athlete, as a fantastic athlete who's actually put India on the world map when it comes to MMA.
100%.
Yeah?
Very well received.
So let's
get into
let's
UFC.
discuss the elephant in the room. Volkanovski won, in my opinion, and I remember you in the intro. You talking about judges scoring the bouts round by round.
You directly want to go into the dessert section, main course section.
The main course, yeah. So okay, but I remember, if you remember, Peter O'Malley versus Peter Yan.
Sean O'Malley and Peter Yan.
Sean O'Malley and Peter Yan. My name's
That'll be their son.
Yeah,
Peter
that'll be
O'Malley.
the son. yeah. Somehow it doesn't sound right, but yeah, that match when O'Malley won, the judges.
It was pretty close.
The judges said the bouts are not based on rounds, but it's based on the kind of damage that you inflict on your opponent. Suddenly, everything changes when Makachev is looking like a plastered or a roadkill. So. I mean, I know you've been Team Makachev.
I've been Team Makachev, and I would contest to even on that point that who got more number of significant strikes, because in number of significant strikes, both were very equal, and people have now broken down the fights. I was watching a lot of Instagram footage on that. I myself have broken down the fight.
And that was a nice one.
The grappling section, the scrimmage section of it, but the striking section, they have broken it down where Makachev has been landing knees, clean punches, and we know how good of a striker Volkanovski is.
Yes.
So to stop a guy like Volkanovski with punches and make his striking game not show, that kind of showed that Islam is not so bad of a striker himself. And again, the number of the damage versus the control debate, which we always face in these close fights, I think it's mainly because Makachev had the back, which is considered like pretty dominant, and even the punches that Volkanovski was trying to throw from the back, which the fans were more excited about, and the arena was really, getting into a frenzy whenever Volkanovski was doing that. Those punches did not create a lot of damage, to be honest, if you think about it.
Of course, I agree.
The main damage happened in the last 1 minute of the final round, where he went on the close guard top, and then from there he pounded him. So I think that round, that last 1 minute, Volkanovski won it, no doubt. Apart from that, round first was Makachev's, round second was Makachev's due to the back control, and then round fourth was Makachev's due to the back control. And apart from that, he stuffed all his takedown. He continuously kept getting up, but it still kind of makes judge lean towards the side of the person who is doing the takedown, putting in the effort, whereas the guy who is just getting up, who is just defending the back and pummeling himself to neutral, probably that's the way how they scored it. And if you remember, there was this very popular Joe Rogan Experience clip where they do a fight companion and all the friends were watching. So right when the fight was ending, everyone was 100% sure that Volkanovski won, which was the reaction of most of the fans.
Even us.
Even me, I was like, oh, if it goes to Volk, like nobody is going to doubt it as much. But fair play to the judges. Probably they see the fight in a different way, and it's very difficult to judge a fight live in the arena with the crowd cheering, and they still got it as accurate, in my opinion, as possible. Kremli. Coach Kremli from Team TCA, he also right after the fight made that post that 1-2-4 went to Makachev. I reshared it, and later on most of the MMA experts gave the 1-2-4 to Makachev.
What I have a problem is with the unanimous decision, first of all,
right,
and also the 49-46.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
Who is this judge? I mean, what was he watching? I don't know.
There's always that one judge who gets it extremely wrong.
So what was unfair was it took a little time for judges to decide, and if it was a split decision,
or even if it was a draw, I would be happy with that.
Draw would have been fine.
Yeah.
But again, even if Makachev won via a split decision, it still makes sense that Volk definitely won a few rounds, which was very, very evident. 100%. But to score the bouts,
unanimous.
Unanimous, and also 49-46. I don't know what fight this guy was watching. Plus, Joe Rogan was also of the belief, because we've been, so 135, like you said, 1-2-4 was 1-2-4, but everybody else, like me, a Volk fan, is
so
debating
which
that
round did you give to
1,
Volk?
3, and 5.
1, 3, and 5.
1, 3, and 5. I guess.
First round. So see, the first round is very debatable. Third, I would 100% agree. Fifth, nobody disagrees that Volk got that. But the first one is a little bit dicey, and that's where.
But I agree with your point because Makachev looked fantastic as a counter boxer. He was countering Volkanovski.
Even the knees that he was throwing.
Yeah, without a doubt, one of the best strikers on planet Earth. He made Holloway look like an amateur boxer.
Exactly.
If you remember.
Exactly.
So
not once, like thrice.
Yes.
Actually.
And from there on, to face someone like Volkanovski with his striking prowess and not just hold his own, but also counter so effectively.
Right.
So Volkanovski had a nice post-fight interview where he said, Makachev did not respect my wrestling enough, and I, on the other hand, did not respect his striking enough.
Yeah,
I think that was a very good point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll always be divided because, like everyone else, I'm also guided by emotion. Why? It's not that I don't like Makachev. He's one of the greatest in our time, but there is this factor that these guys are
I think now
unbeatable.
people doubt that though, because before this, Islam was a juggernaut who couldn't be stopped.
Yes.
And here comes a guy from a smaller weight division
Featherweight to lightweight,
and making him look superhuman. Because if you saw, Makachev at the end of the 5th round was super gassed as well. He was like, "Oh, I just want to hold him. I don't even want to get out from there."
Yeah, it was crazy.
How many times have we seen Makachev on the bottom of any position, any grappling position? Never.
I think it's also the right time to talk about Craig Jones working wonders with Volkanovski with his scrimmage wrestling.
That was great.
I mean, whatever we are learning today, because we are at a Rebel right now, we are doing scrimmage wrestling and we are trying to not just accept pins, because as BJJ athletes, we are so comfortable playing the bottom game because there is obviously so many positional advantages and submissions that we can, get to from there. But as a scrimmage wrestler, especially if you're fighting under the ADCC rule set, so standing up becomes so important. So all his hip heists, his switches, I mean, just the way he was not letting Makachev even pin him down for 10 seconds or more was insane. So what was happening over there? I mean, we've seen Volkanovski fight. Obviously, we've not seen him go to the ground as much. But what did you see? What did you think Craig Jones did differently as his grappling coach?
I think he prepared him really well. And as you said, Craig Jones has been one of the leading guys along with the Danaher camp in this meta, where they have been talking about scrimmage for a while. They haven't released like a proper DVD or a system yet, but that's what I've done. I've tried to study their games, watch their rolling footage, watch Gordon talk about it, watch Danaher's wrestling DVDs on it where he mentions it and shows some of the moves. So the meta is out there. It has been working actually in the ADCC. If you see a lot of matches like Wagner Rocha is actually a master of scrimmage. He never allows you to get points scored on him so very easy. And guys like Renato Canuto versus
Gary
Tonon match, that's a great example of how scrimmage should be working, where you're countering wrestling and then hitting defensive reactions at the right time. So all these matches, people have been doing it in the past. Now it's just been given a new brand name. This is what I was talking to Robert Deagle also about. It has just been now packaged into something. And I like the fact that it has been packaged in a way because now people will take it more seriously. Earlier, it all was just convoluted in one big wrestling umbrella, whereas now people will actually pay attention. Oh, so what's happening here is this niche part of wrestling where you are countering.
Which is BJJ specific also, because wrestling in itself is so huge. I mean, it takes a lifetime to even get close to mastering any of the moves of wrestling, but
plus, you have to discard a lot of wrestling moves because you can't do that in jiu-jitsu. You either get guillotined or you get countered in a different way. You get your back taken, things like that.
Of course.
So that has been an X factor in this match, Craig Jones, and we got to see that candid moment right after the fight.
Yeah, where Makachev is trying to hug Craig, and Craig is kind of, what the hell is happening?
Trying to body lock him.
Yeah, body lock him. He's like, bro, get off me.
And then he also asked him about the RNC because he couldn't finish the RNC at one point.
Because he was not even trying. He was just chilling over there, and Volk was so confident being there. Even before the fight started, when Volk walked in with his Down Under song, he looked very happy, very confident. When Makachev was coming in, there was something about him. Maybe it's the hardcore weight cut and also not having Khabib in his corner.
Both of that. I was about to say that. I think it was the hardcore weight cut plus not having Khabib in the corner. That kind of dismantled his confidence a little bit. And just I think when you grapple with a guy like Volk, as he was saying, that when he actually grapples with me, he will see the power difference, because he was calling him a short guy,
Yeah.
short guy.
And if you remember, whenever
throughout.
Volk was going to his corner, he's like, he's not strong.
Yes.
You're saying he's not strong. Maybe Volk was supposed to, or we are all supposed to believe that Makachev, when he holds you, is like a boa constrictor. You can't just let go. And Volk was like,
I have seen that these smaller guys with lower center of gravity, they just tend out to be freakishly strong sometimes.
I know.
Like even the guy in the morning class, Sandy,
Yeah.
he's so strong.
He's stout. That's why strength and conditioning, my friends.
So it was a tremendous performance. As I said, Craig Jones really brought it to the limelight. And let's talk about the commentary for a bit, because I was really pissed about the commentary.
I think every time, especially with Bisping and the gang, I mean, it was as if Volk didn't even exist. Like Makachev was fighting a newbie who just entered the UFC arena.
They never gave him props.
They never gave him props for what he was doing. Even DC, later on after the fight actually happened and it went all the distance, DC was kind of, okay, I'll have to say something good about Volk. DC is kind of biased towards the Khabib
It's his
camp.
boys,
They are his boys.
Xavier Mendes.
Yeah, and so, like you said, it's just like any other promotion sometimes where these commentators are so biased in the commentary, and maybe that is also to sway the judges in a fighter's favor.
Or the public perception, because if you just talk about Islam being the dominant one, then the public will be like, the commentators were saying it all the time, so it makes sense. But when Volk was actually escaping out of those transitions, I never heard them like go, oh, Volk is doing a great job defending this. He's dominating now. I remember one flurry that Volk threw right after escaping from the cage, where he hit.
He knocked him out.
He rocked him.
He rocked him, yeah.
Not knocked him
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
knocked him down at some point.
Knocked him down, yeah.
So that was pretty.
That's why I like Joe
interesting.
Rogan. Joe Rogan says as it is. He's like, okay, this guy is good, this guy is bad. Whereas DC's commentary has always been biased. If he likes someone, he's gonna take you to a pedestal, to cloud 9. If he doesn't like you or you're not in his camp, he's never talking good things about the guy, even though this guy is winning or has the potential to win.
So you know what? What's funny? John Jones's match is going to come up in March, and today he made a post saying, "DC, you can actually commentate my fight. I trust you not to be biased against me. And if I win, you can come and along the same lines, you can come and do the interview with me in the octagon," which will be a pretty cool moment if it happens.
Very, very cool moment, because if you guys don't know it yet, if you guys are still new to UFC, I think the UFC's biggest rivalry has been between these two stalwarts, John Jones and Daniel Cormier. They also almost fought during interviews, which was crazy.
It was a nasty interview. So this is what another point I wanted to talk about is, and I haven't discussed it with you, that this Volk versus Makachev was an example of a fight which was super high level, one of the best fighters. And usually whenever that happens, it's always riddled with controversies.
Yes.
But this was an example of a fight where even during the lead up to the fight, it was pretty decent, respectful, playful banter, which is sometimes, fresh breath of air.
Also, if you recall, I think UFC also did not promote this fight as much as we would have liked. I think
we talked about it in the last
talked about it in the last episode. It was one of the biggest fights of 2023, and it's just February, So they didn't play it up as much because down under Makachev versus Volkanovski. But again, look at what it turned out to be. I think it's going to go down as one of the greatest moments in UFC history.
Fights probably of this
one of
year.
the best fights. So it's crazy. So a lot of people think in India, especially our friends, believe that grappling is not a big part of MMA. See what a good grappling coach can do to your game. And Craig Jones is now training Adesanya too.
Oh yeah. I think Adesanya will benefit so much from that camp, because if he can control our man, what's his name? Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
If he can control that guy like last time and actually take him down with those body lock entries that he was getting, man, Pereira is looking in trouble, because he got gassed so fast whenever he was grappling in those transitions.
I think that's why scrimmage is so important, not just for jiu-jitsu but also for MMA now, because especially championship bouts with 5 rounds, 25 minutes of fighting, that's a lot of time. So
I think it actually originates from the MMA rule sets because people don't want to be on the bottom. So
Yes.
if, let's say, if you don't know any jiu-jitsu, what's your option if somebody takes you down? You want to get back up, right?
just stand up.
So I think ADCC rule set was made keeping MMA in mind because initially when ADCC came into existence, most of the fighters who were fighting there were the MMA fighters. So they had to make it a fair playground where you just were not incentivized for pulling the guard and staying on your back throughout.
That's true.
But you had to be more of a wrestling style oriented fighter.
Yeah, true that. So UFC 284 was interesting to say the least. It was so interesting that some beer bottles were being thrown because we watched it as a small little group, and there were 2 factions, and we were just having a lot of
Who was
fun.
throwing the beer
I mean,
bottles?
Jatin was going crazy. He's a hyper kid that we have, fantastic student. But it was a great atmosphere. I mean, we believed he won. But again,
I saw the video that Madhu posted of
Yeah,
you
it was-
guys
it was
just
great. It was crazy.
you had that wide open mouth watching
Yeah.
the action and rest everyone was
Yeah.
going crazy.
You never see me animated. Very hardly see me animated. But that day I thought he won. But again, it was 284. That's the kind of vibe MMA is generating now. It is almost like football where people
So
are
fun to watch.
chanting. People are chanting hymns, if I may call them, or some kind of "We are the champions" choruses. So it's interesting. If you remember that song, if you go to FIFA World Cup, this is the song they are mostly chanting. But yeah, I mean,
Is it Freddie Mercury? We are the champions.
yeah, Queen.
Queen.
So it was fantastic. 284. If you've watched it, you know what we are talking about. I know some of you liked Volk, some of you like Makachev. So you can comment and share your thoughts on what happened and what didn't happen. These are just the thoughts. As a disclaimer,
Let's move on to the second fight, which was so fiery, so feisty.
Rodriguez versus Emma.
Rodriguez versus Emmett. Holy
Oh my
shit.
God.
So-
I mean, I've always liked Emmett for the kind of power he has on his right hand.
Yeah.
He kind of blasts you, and once he clips you, it's almost over. And it almost happened in the second round, if you remember.
Like once. Yeah.
But again, Rodriguez was too much for Emmett in this.
So I thought Emmett will approach this fight a little differently because we have seen where the holes of Rodriguez's game is, that is his grappling, right? So he went into this fight like a classic power puncher versus a creative striker
Yes.
fight. But now I think Rodriguez has matured so much that every single time Emmett was trying to enter and close the distance, just getting blasted with punches, leg kicks, elbows.
Did you see his body kicks? Because
Oh
he's
my
a southpaw.
God, yeah.
His body kicks, and then he starts switching onto the head, which rocked Emmett in more times than one.
He threw like 10 head kicks.
Yeah.
And every single time Emmett was like, yeah, I'll block it with both hands.
And he was getting rocked despite that. It was crazy. So I think the featherweight division is just getting started now because Volk is going to be the champion and this guy is the interim champion. It's going to be interesting to watch them fight. Whereas Rodriguez is going to be very, very tall and Volk.
Yeah, what do you think will happen in that fight? Volk versus Rodriguez.
I think Volk's going to take it because Rodriguez is still not that experienced, in my opinion. Even though Volk is smaller, but he can outclass him with punches. Now, and as we've seen, his wrestling is gone to the next level. And like you correctly pointed out, Rodriguez is still not very apt when it comes to grappling with other people.
I think it will happen like if you remember the fight Rodriguez versus Frankie Edgar.
Yes.
It's the same stature fighter, smaller guy who just takes him down and then beats him up on the bottom. But I hope Rodriguez has matured because excuse me, because people are talking about his jiu-jitsu or his wrestling probably improving, but we didn't get to see it, so we cannot comment on it right now. But yeah, that's an interesting fight that can happen in that division. Although I would like the rematch to happen. Volk versus Islam, that's the first match that should happen.
It should happen because, I mean,
We need to set
a
up
lot
this.
of things have been unsettled now. I mean, a lot of things are in the air, and it's time to put a stamp on it, on either Makachev or Volkanovski as the number one pound for pound fighter. Let's also talk about controversies around it. I mean, even before we discuss Rodriguez, what about the controversy that Dan Hooker brought in?
Man, that's wild, and it's not substantiated yet. So we cannot say if he's right or he's wrong. But he said something on the lines of Islam cheating by injecting himself with IVs after a brutal weight cut. And to that, Islam responded with, there are USADA officials, UFC officials all around me. If there was something like that, I would have been caught.
It is a very, very
I think it's
dangerous.
cheap if you accuse someone like this without any proof.
Without any substantial proof. I think Dan Hooker needs to first get the proof, then make an accusation like that.
Dan Hooker got submitted by this guy so
Nasty
badly.
Kimura.
So, was it Kimura? Yeah, it was a Kimura.
It was a Kimura.
When Khabib was there, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I mean, these are major allegations. These are serious allegations because if it is proven right, he could face a 2-year ban.
2-year suspension with the title being stripped.
Obviously, the title being stripped. And again, Volk becoming the number one pound for pound fighter. And also...
He still is, by the way. You know that?
Oh, yeah?
So UFC did not update the rankings even though Islam won. And Islam was in the octagon trying to say, hey guys, now I am the pound for pound number one fighter, which was kind of cringy because you don't want to proclaim yourself as you want...
somebody else to say that for you. But also, I remember the post-fight interviews where Islam was like, okay, I'm good, I'm great, well, thank you. But Volkanovski was such a classy man, even in his defeat.
Volkanovski came to the Adil Hilwani podcast probably yesterday, and I was listening to it. He was like, if Islam was my weight division, I would squash him. And definitely he would.
He would.
Because...
This guy is a monster. I mean, what a monster. But again, that's about... what we can have for Volk and Makachev. We still have a lot of things to discuss on the podcast because there are some interesting tidbits between Gordon Ryan, Nicky Rod. Now Craig Jones is in and other good stuff. So stay tuned. So we'll be back in just a second. All right, guys, and we are back. We are still Rajiv and Piyush, and this is still Rebel Radio. We just had a great banter on UFC 284 and the controversy surrounding it. Now we move on. Piyush, what's next?
Now let's move on to the BJJ world, guys. Yeah. Our world. Okay.
His world.
So, yeah, my world specifically. So we have this matchup coming along, WNO. Again, it's not being promoted as much. Maybe people are not so interested in flow grappling events as of now.
And for good reason, bro.
After the ADCC moving on announcement to Fight Pass. But the match is pretty interesting in itself. Gordon Ryan versus Felipe Pena. I don't know what number. Fourth match. So 2 Gordon has lost. Last one he made Pena quit just by pressure. And this one is going to be a even Stevens decider, right?
If it goes 2-2, then we'll probably have a decider on the 5th one.
And then we'll have a tiebreaker in the 5th one where Gordon is now evened up on all the fighters that have beaten him. So, what do you think about the last match first of all, and then we'll talk about this upcoming match.
Last match was not very interesting for me because it was almost like a marathon.
50 minutes.
50 minutes. I mean, they keep extending the fights, and also Pena was coming back after a huge tragedy in his life, especially
like just one day before.
One day before, his best friend was killed. If you don't know, please.
R.I.P. Leo.
One of the greatest athletes, BJJ athletes of all time. Leandro Lowe. I mean, he's given so much to the BJJ world and an amazing ambassador of the sport. Coming back to WNO, it was a lengthy fight for me, and especially when 2 high-level guys are fighting, you don't get to see much technique. And Gordon Ryan, with all his grandeur around being the best grappler in the country, could not pass Felipe Pena's guard. You have to agree to that. And we also saw Nicky Rod pass Felipe Pena's guard in the ADCC. Multiple times. So I don't know what to say about that, but it's going to be an interesting fight. The banter, unfortunately, has shifted from Pena to Nicky Rod and Craig Jones now. Otherwise, everything Gordon makes as a social media post is about, thank you, Pena, for buying my car.
Pena would be feeling so relieved now.
Thank you, Pena, for buying me stuff for my kitchen. Thank you, Pena, for my ice box.
Pena, come live in my garage.
Pena, come live in my garage. Because if we have Conor for MMA, we have Gordon for BJJ when it comes to trash talking. So let's address the elephant in the room once again. What's happening between these supposedly best friends? If you remember.
Wait. Are we talking about Pena fight still?
Pena fight.
I want to discuss that.
Okay, let's go.
Discuss that a little bit. So, last Pena fight, as I was saying, that he wasn't so active and because of the tragedy, and then said Gordon couldn't pass his guard. So Gordon's excuse for that was that I was just trying to tire him out over a long duration of match, because that's what is the like prime strategy for a no time limit match. You want to fatigue the opponent so much. Why would you want to finish them in 5 minutes if you can just play with the food for 50 minutes or 40 minutes straight and then make them tired and then quit? So that was his excuse, which at times was pretty evident, because at some moments in time, he had almost access to the back, but he was just riding the back. Again, scrimmage style, where he was not trying to immediately insert the hooks, but just cruise in a leg drag position or just almost have the back, then let it go and stay on the top, continue putting passing pressure. But to Felipe Pena's credit, his guard is legendary.
Of course.
In those situations, his guard, his ability to go to X guard to 50-50, which nobody gets on Gordon Ryan so easily. So he put Gordon in a lot of those positions, and obviously near the end, he tried to take the easy way out, claiming that his friend's demise caused him mental agony, which it must have, but then you shouldn't have just taken the fight. And there are controversies in that area also, which we would not go right now. But in this upcoming fight, I feel what he has done wrong is made the mistake of once again training with Atos. Because that camp literally has nothing to offer him. All the fighters that have gone, even Andre Galvao himself, he has gotten beaten by the same system that Gordon has been using on everyone. So what will you gain training with Andre Galvao, drilling the single leg and the double leg and the hard style of training, versus if you were to go to a place like Bteam, where the people are doing the same exact system, what Dana has been doing, what Gordon has been doing, probably they can explain you Gordon's strategy much better. And Gordon himself mentions this in his Flow Grappling interview, which he just did, that Felipe Pena did not want to come out of his comfort zone of being surrounded by just Brazilians and having that mentor of Atos mentorship. So I think that's where Felipe Pena messed up this time. He should have gone to B-Team, although he tried to bring in Craig Jones
for a while, yeah,
and created that. But you are not going to get anything in like 1 day off or 2 day off training like that.
Yes.
So he should have had a better camp. He must have juiced. When we'll talk about that, we have to mention that.
Of course.
He's not looking super bulky, but he's looking pretty big and strong. I think Gordon is going to impose his will on that match once again, like he always does. Play with them. Again, it's a no time limit match, right?
I think so.
Yes. So Gordon is going to, this time, very decisively probably take Pena's back, or just go to mount and do the same thing which he has done to all
But
the other guys.
I hope it's a clean victory this time.
It should
no
be.
room for excuses, It should be a submission.
Yeah, but be prepared for the match to go long because we never know.
Yeah. Because I'm not a big fan of these no time limits, because first of all, we don't have all day to watch a BJJ match. I mean, it has to be exciting. We've always talked about trying to get more eyeballs to the match. Remember Isaac versus who that went on for?
Yeah, it was a 10-planet guy, which I don't care about. Kyle Chambers.
No,
Kyle
I think
Chambers.
it was a black guy.
Yeah, it's Kyle Chambers.
Yeah, so they kept rolling for I think half a day. Who's going to watch? They
had to shift
the match. That's just ridiculous. So, but having said that, you're absolutely right. I think Felipe should have chosen B Team, because B Team, if Danaher is revolutionizing BJJ with his amazing systems, B Team is just around the block. Whereas
they've learned it directly from him.
They've learned it directly from him, and their leg lock games are legit. They have some of the best leg lockers in the room. The scrimmage is insane. We have Nicky Rod, we have Nicky Ryan, we have Craig Jones, and some of his pupils who are amazingly talented. Exactly. So that was, I don't know, an oversight, maybe the Brazilian connection, like you correctly said. But hopefully this is going to be a quick one for Gordon Ryan, because obviously there is no beating him right now. The only time somebody came close to even, let's say, getting a tap after the stipulated time was Nicky Rod, but that was after about a month's break, which Gordon had. Yeah. And he was roaming around Hawaii with Jason Momoa, showing his butt. But I think because of the recent feud that these guys are going through, I think that was the closest anybody will ever come to.
And to be fair, Gordon wasn't expecting that match. He was pitted against Vinny Maglesh.
Yeah, Vinny
And
Maglesh.
Vinny Maglesh is not like a very season. He's a seasoned competitor, but he's not an active competitor right now. So Gordon was definitely partying around and chilling, and he was not taking that match serious. He knew that he could do whatever he wanted to Vinny. And just one day prior to that, he gets notified that, oh, so now you're facing Nicky Rod, who just won EBI absolutes. So
Full of confidence.
full of confidence, big, juicy, as we'll talk about.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so what do you guys think about such BJJ formats? Should we bring these kind of formats to India where we have time, no time limits for bouts? Should we stick to ADCC rule set, especially for strangle, or should we also sometimes experiment with EBI rule sets? So these are things that we would request you guys to hit us up with, so that we can also start doing or getting ourselves prepared on these under these rule sets, so that we can also hopefully someday represent Indian Jiu-Jitsu outside. What do you say? Yeah. 100%. So I think these things are important. But again, what's even spicier today is the feud that had just begun between these two brothers earlier, because Nicky Rod, as I remember, was Gordon's prodigy. His prodigy, right? He loved him so much. Big guy, strong guy. Danaher and Gordon were touting him as the next biggest thing in BJJ. And suddenly they split and shit has hit the roof, and how. So let's entertain our friends with that if they have not already gone through it. So what's up with juicing, Piyush? I mean, first of all, are you okay with people juicing?
I just made an Instagram post story 2 hours earlier where I talked about this feud and I talked about my perception of juicing. So I'm totally fine with it if your sport allows it. Because again, it's as much science as taking a whey protein or a creatine, things like that. Because somebody will always have access to those things versus somebody will never have access to that. So let's talk about a person who is a great athlete, who is putting in the hours, putting in the effort. But let's say he's poor or he's coming from a small place where they don't have access to these things. So he competing against someone who has a full nutritional coach, who has full SNC conditioning going for him, who has a great camp around him basically of sports science. So he will always be at disadvantage, right? So it's the same argument for steroids. The only con being that steroids will actually affect you adversely, which is where people draw the line. But if the athlete is willing to take the risk and if your sport does not penalizes you for it, the playing field is wide open, and why shouldn't you be do it? And everyone in jiu-jitsu at the highest level has been engaging in it. So I don't see anything wrong with people who chose to do it. Personally, would I do it? We never know.
I have a slightly different opinion on that, because I've always thought anything that gives you an edge, which is not hard work, is amounts to cheating. Yes, that's my personal opinion. Because
so what's your hard work definition?
Hard work definition is, like you said, putting in the hours in the mat, eating the right kind of food, SNC, irrespective
but
of
what if I cannot afford SNC?
Yeah, I mean that's another topic for another, in my opinion, because if you have goals to, let's say, win ADCC trials, if you are in that kind of mind space, you will find a way, just like you find a way to train, let's say also under a tin shed and let's say puzzle mats or even very thin mats, you will also figure out a way to get the nutrition right and your SNC correct. But what does steroids or PEs do is basically shorten recovery time. That's where I feel it is kind of cheating, because I could be doing as much work as Piyush is, but Piyush can train for 8 hours a day today and come back tomorrow and have the same kind of vigor and the strength to train another 8 hours to not just tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and the day after that.
But Rajiv, that same thing goes with whey protein supplements and the creatine and all the legalized substances, because they will give you that kind of strength factor advantage and they will give you better protein supply in your body, which, let's say, if I'm an athlete who does not believe in it, does not do it, will have not access to that kind of protein content in my body. If I'm a vegetarian, If I don't take creatine, my recovery process will be a little bit slow. And there are so many other supplements which are legal, which helps you in faster recovery. Let's say fish oil, for example, things like this. And not everyone can afford it. So it again goes to that affordability factor. Some people can afford it versus some people will always never be able to afford it. Can we call it cheating on the part of people who are able to afford it? We never know. If having a good SNC program make you much more stronger than the person who cannot afford a high level elite coaching and do the SNC, it's I don't know if you'll call it cheating. That's my opinion on it.
Of course.
Now, let's talk about this specific scenario. What originated the beef? So just to give you a little bit of history on Nicky Rod situation. So Nicky Rod has been the one. So after the split happened in DDS, everything was quiet for a big time. And then we hear a podcast where Nicky Rod, and I think I showed you that, where Nicky Rod comes in and says, we have cut the poison out of our team. Then in the same podcast, he mentions there are people, he was never taking the name during that point of time, where he was like, there are people who in hard practice just wilt away when the going gets tough. They don't want to do it. So basically he was trying to poke at Gordon since the very beginning. And finally, I think Gordon had enough, and we always knew that this is a ticking time bomb and it will explode one day. And after his last match with Gordon, where he caught a toe hold, and Gordon was like, he greases because he was so slippery. And then he said, in ADCC, I
had to wear a rash guard.
Yeah, long sleeve just because of him, just because of that one fight. So he's definitely very slippery, Nicky Rod, because if you see him rolling any point in time, maybe it's just the sweat or his oily skin. Some people have very oily skin. And he's also seen to be applying a lot of lotions in the B team footage. So you never know. And again, can you call that cheating? Greasing is cheating, technically.
That is absolute cheating, because that is basically applying something on your body so that it's a grappling tournament. If I cannot grab you, what will I do with
Exactly. If you cannot grab me.
Might as well get into mud wrestling with oil.
And there is a wrestling for that too.
Yeah, that's a different kind of
Iranian oil wrestling.
You don't want to get into that. Yeah, it's hard enough doing what we are doing now, and if we start getting into those stuff, we'll be here all day. So I think, now at the end of the day, Gordon Ryan is like, okay, I take steroids, so what? So you've also went from becoming a high school TT boosting little guy to one of the best looking athletes
in 2-3 years.
In 2-3 years. So obviously he's also, I mean, we are not stupid. We are on 2023. We know when we look at a person if he's juiced or not. Yeah. I mean, it's that simple. You look at Mikey Musumeci, you cannot say he's roided, because look at him. Yeah. When you look at the Ruotolo brothers, I mean, they have no arms. They have tiny hands. You know, once you look at someone like, let's say,
me.
Not you, Andre Galvao, his traps have traps. His biceps have biceps. Yeah. I mean, those things don't happen naturally. So it doesn't take rocket science or some hardcore testing or very precision testing for us, even layman who's been training for a while, to understand who is using PEs or who's not using PEs. Yeah.
So here is the tricky part. Nicky Rod has been branding himself as the natty guy, as a person who is natural, and he has been selling his DVDs, he has been selling his courses, and that's where it became conflicting for me to take him seriously, because if you're lying through your mouth about this thing, that at least Gordon, if he does not blatantly says that he's on roids, but he also does not denies it. He's like, I am on Jesus diet, I pray to Jesus, things like that. So again, if you're not explicitly saying it, but you're also not denying it, I respect that, because again, you're not being a role model for people by saying, oh, you can get this physique if you just do these things. You're not false advertising, Whereas Nicky Rod was blatantly false advertising, saying he is not. And yesterday he took like a blood test also with more plates, more dates guy, that YouTube channel. And Gordon comes out and says, post ADCC, when everyone cycles off, that's the best time that you got the test on. You should do it like every 2 months randomly with USADA, and I'll pay for your bills. Wow. So you don't have to. So that's why I like Gordon, because he, apart from his political stance, which is absolutely dog shit, when he talks about athletes who have this dual-faced character, he goes all into it.
Yeah.
And that's where the fans also connect to him. Okay, he's calling a spade a spade. He's calling the bullshit out.
And that's true about this guy. I mean, besides his great jiu-jitsu, he's also very blatant about what he believes and doesn't believe.
And he has receipts for everything.
Yeah,
That's the best part about
this guy
feuding with
has a
him.
time to create reels on Nicky Rod, bro. I mean, how free is this guy? He wakes up at 6, eats breakfast at 6:45, trains at 8, comes back, lifts, again goes back to train in the afternoon. After that, this guy is free. It's very evident from
He's
his.
a millionaire at 27.
Yeah,
What other work does
I mean,
he
his
have?
posts are like the Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita. So it's long, it's unwinding, and his punctuation's on point. Yeah, he writes very well, just like John Danaher does. So yeah, I mean, this is gonna. What is just become exciting is like the new hero of the town, Mr. Craig Jones. After
He also entered the system.
he also enters the system. He enters the system and he throws a lot of bricks towards Gordon, and Gordon is just waiting, and he's like coming and saying things like, "What?"
So what Craig did was he went into a podcast. These guys cannot just stop talking about it on podcast now. So he goes and says in a podcast, I saw it yesterday, that Gordon has now, and also he posted on Reddit. He said Gordon has now become a guy who is no longer has that aura or air of invincibility. And everyone is coming for him now, and he's the kind of guy. If he loses, he will. Is that ours?
All right, we'll be back in just a second.
All right. So we were discussing before we went off about Craig Jones entering the chat in this scenario.
I mean, Craig Jones, the latest hero in the MMA world because of what he has done with Volkanovski. But yeah, what is happening? Because you're so abreast with all these news. So let's have some fun.
Yeah, that's my other job of just keeping up with the drama in BJJ world. So what I was telling is that Craig also joined in the bandwagon in one of the podcasts. And he was like, Gordon is now a falling hero because he has had his peak, and now people will come and poke holes at his games. And we saw Nicky Rod came very close to submitting him. He almost had his back and whatnot. And now Gordon, as a sore loser he is, he will not take it really well. And by the time Gordon retires, he'll be very, very miserable. So I think that was in a bad taste because, again, Gordon and him were such great training partners at one point. I think a lot of Craig's progress, Craig's evolution happened post the ADCC 2017.
I agree.
Or I think pre-ADCC post-ADCC 2017, when he went and prepared for like 2 years with the DDS squad. So to just blame Gordon and on his one bad outing, whereas he had mauled each and every opponent, done the unthinkable at ADCC, at least don't talk shit about his game. You can talk shit about his personality, but you can't be like, oh, he's a falling hero now. And especially when he has beaten you like 3 or 4 times in the earlier matches, and all by submissions, all by RNC and arm triangles, things like that. So let's see how this drama shapes up, because Gordon does not hold back, and he just blasted Craig Jones. If you remember that Mason Fowler post that he made,
God, yeah.
trying to just cinch in that back choke, which was not even there, and Craig tapped to the spine pressure. So Gordon is very brutal with his counter attacks.
And his research.
Yeah, like post his training, that's all he does.
I think that's all he does.
Just sits there, makes videos, makes reels, finds.
But look where we've come as a BJJ community. I mean, nobody in the last 5 years, the way we've grown as a sport, nobody even knew what BJJ was. Now we are making news everywhere. Gordon says something, we are making news. Craig Jones says something. Though it's in bad taste, but I think it's great for the sport. We've always known Muhammad Ali to be one of the biggest mouths or trash talkers in the business, and look at where he took boxing. Right. You know, just like Conor McGregor. Before Conor McGregor, there's an era before Conor McGregor in the UFC, and there's an era after Conor McGregor. So Conor McGregor made it into a soap opera. People wanted to watch it just for the entertainment value also. And hopefully these guys will be responsible in taking BJJ to the next level, where people are choosing factions. I hate Craig Jones, I hate Gordon Ryan, all those good stuff. And this, I think, will, at the end of the day, fuel the growth of the sport, which is great for everyone. What do you say?
Yeah, like a lot of people who don't even follow the sport in my DMs in my Instagram, they have been sending me these posts of these guys beefing. So it definitely exposes a lot of new eyes to the community. Do I agree with this kind of trash talk? It's not really my style, but I also enjoy just watching these posts. Again, Gordon's political posts are super shit. I don't like it at all. I don't even watch it. I just ignore it. But whenever he is beefing with a BJJ guy, talking shit about one of the legends of the sport, I am all in.
I know. I saw that post when I just say, oh, long post alert, and I saw Nicky Rod's picture. I thought these guys are patching up, and oh my God, Gordon was on a spree, a rant where he was just belittling Nicky from top to bottom. It was insane, and he's so creative with his writing, just like John Dana is.
The only true weapon which hasn't entered the game right now is Nicky Ryan's intro. Like Nicky Ryan is never going to talk shit online because he does not have that kind of persona, as I just mentioned. But they can get even dirtier if this goes more further, and then Craig or Nicky Rod can just come in and be like, "Hey, but the brother is training with us. So what does that say about you as a person?"
Yeah, I hope they don't make it that personal, because then it just becomes too dirty.
It's getting personal.
Yeah.
Because Craig also mentioned something about Mason Fowler being able to satisfy his girl, his own girl.
Yeah.
Basically, that was a dig at Gordon, like emasculating him in some sort of way. So just let's see how dirty can it
I
get.
think this is going to pan out to be insanely entertaining, or it's going to pan out really bad for someone.
In any case, keep your popcorns ready, guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. So these are the tidbits from the MMA and BJJ world. Like always, me and Piyush, we never claim to be experts or authorities on these. We are just two friends bantering. If you like what we are trying to do, always hit us up with suggestions on who we should get as a guest into one of our podcasts. You can also send us topics on what we can discuss on the podcasts. What do you say? I mean, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Gordon versus Pena fight, and also New Wave is going to come out with their own YouTube channel. I just found out, so I saw a clip, which is going to be pretty interesting because it's always a delight watching guys like Giancarlo, Gordon, Nicholas Meregali roll, and Danaher teach.
Yes.
We don't get to see that other than in DVDs, so that'll be fun. And we'll see how it counters the B team faction's growth.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because B team is putting on some legit content, because it's so interesting to just watch them roll. You just get to learn so much out of the banter and how fun they have made BJJ. You know, it's not a sport where people are trying to beat each other up, but also some funny banter, some funny backstories. So I think B team is the team to beat right now when it comes to content creation. But again, with the likes of Gordon, Giancarlo, and John Dana himself, I think this is going to be a lot of knowledge for BJJ addicts like both of us.
BJJ fans win.
Yeah, the BJJ fans win either ways. But having said that, we had a great time. Today we discussed UFC 284 in a lot of detail, especially the main event between Volkanovski and Makachev. We had our views. We agreed to disagree in some points. We also talked about steroids. We agreed to disagree on a lot of points. Then we brought to you what was happening in the BJJ world. Obviously, the Felipe Pena and Gordon Ryan rematch, the fourth match in a WNO card. And besides that, the controversy and the banter, or the lot of back and forth happening between the Ryans and the B team guys. So it's been an interesting week. We will, like always, always try and bring you some amazing content, or if you're not updated with what's happening in the MMA circuit or the BJJ circuit. Before we go, we would like to remind you once again about Strangle. We are on April 29th. We have a lot of divisions, a lot of prize money, but the most important aspect of Strangle is we're going to send the winner of the professional division to ADCC trials. That's happening in November in Singapore. So Piyush, take it away and let's go home.
Yeah, I think that was a good podcast. We'll see you guys next week. Till then, have a safe training. Enjoy the life. Out.
I think, and if you are in Gurgaon, if you want to train with us, we are at Sector 45. We are Rebel MMA and Jiu Jitsu. Till then, guys, until next time.